Hello, you are watching Red Flag Radio. Enjoy watching.
Hey Reddit, I never thought I'd be the one posting here, but I guess life has a way of slapping you in the face when you least expect it. I, 34, male, have been married to my wife, 32, female, for 6 years, together for 9. No kids, though we were talking about it seriously this year. I used to think we had a solid marriage. We'd laughed a lot, had a decent sex life, supported each other's careers, and enjoyed traveling. She was my best friend. So I thought. I work in IT, fully remote, so I'm home all day. She works in marketing, busy hours, lots of client meetings, and sometimes she stays out late for networking events or last-minute projects. I always trusted her. Blindly, I realize now. The first crack in the glass came about 4 months ago. It was subtle. She started locking her phone. I mean, yeah, privacy is important, but this was new. She'd always leave it lying around before. Now it's always face down, password protected, and if I walked into the room while she was texting, she'd swipe away so fast you'd think she was hiding state secrets. I asked about it once, jokingly, and she snapped back with a cold, "Why don't you trust me?" That shut me up, temporarily. Around the same time, she became distant. Not dramatically, just different. Shorter with her words, less interested in what I was doing, less physical, too. She stopped initiating anything. If I tried, she usually had a headache or was exhausted from work or just not feeling it lately. I told myself it was stress. Everyone goes through rough patches. I kept making excuses for her because that's what you do when you love someone, right? But then little things started piling up. One time she came home from work drinks and had perfume on her that I don't own. I pointed it out and she brushed it off like I was imagining things. Another time, she said she was at a team dinner, but I saw on her friend's Instagram that the team dinner was last weekend. When I asked her about it, she got defensive and flipped it back on me. "Why are you stalking my friends? That's toxic." I'll admit I started getting paranoid, but at the same time, a small, logical voice kept saying, "Bro, something's off," and I regret not listening to that voice sooner. I'm going to get into how I found out exactly what was going on in the next part, because trust me, it's not what you think. I didn't snoop through her phone. I didn't hire a PI. The way it unraveled was almost accidental, but it hit like a damn freight train. All right, here's where the real descent begins. Like I said, I didn't snoop through her phone or hire anyone. The universe did the dirty work for me. About a month ago, I was cleaning up the house on a Saturday while she was at brunch with coworkers. Normally, I wouldn't think twice, but I was bored and figured I'd do a deep clean. I moved some cushions around the couch and found her work tablet, one she rarely uses at home. I don't even think she remembered it was there. It lit up the second I picked it up. No password. Just swipe to unlock. I wish I could say I hesitated. I didn't. The second I opened her email app, I knew. Her company account was synced, and sitting there in her Sent folder were emails, personal ones, not professional, dozens, maybe more. A lot had been deleted, but some lingered in threads, all between her and a guy named Eli. I'd never heard of him before. Some messages were harmless on the surface, but others made my stomach drop. Flirty, suggestive. One said, "Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about the way you touched me in the car." Another, "I hate sneaking around, but it's the only way we get time alone." I sat there on the couch for what felt like hours, reading, rereading. My hands were literally shaking. I remember hearing the fridge hum and my heartbeat in my ears. I felt hot and cold at the same time, nauseous. I snapped a bunch of screenshots, sent them to myself. Not just the steamy stuff, also the calendar invites, the proof that some of her late nights weren't even work-related. One event was marked Hotel, 9 p.m., and Heart. Subtle. I didn't even know what to do with myself. My entire body went numb. I paced the living room like a caged animal. And then, just like a perfectly timed punch to the gut, I got a text from her. "Hey babe, brunch ran late. Don't wait up for lunch. Kissy face." I swear I almost screamed. That's when I knew it wasn't just a rough patch. It wasn't a misunderstanding. She was cheating. Straight up. Behind my back. In my house. While smiling at me like nothing was wrong. I didn't confront her that day. I needed time. Time to think, to breathe, to not lose my damn mind and say something I couldn't take back. I needed a plan. Because one thing I knew for sure, I wasn't just going to cry about this. I was going to make her regret it. So, she walks in around 3 p.m. that day. Sunglasses on, full of fake smiles, carrying an overpriced iced coffee like she's coming home from church. Says, "Hey love, sorry we got caught up talking about the new campaign launch." Then she kisses me on the cheek. I swear I almost flinched. I just stared at her. I kept my expression neutral. I didn't ask questions. I just said, "Cool," and went back to watching whatever was on the TV. Some crime documentary, ironically. And she flopped on the couch, scrolled through her phone, giggling at TikToks like she wasn't actively stabbing me in the back. For the next few days, I became an actor, an Oscar-worthy performer. I didn't let on that I knew. I played the role of loving, slightly clueless husband perfectly. She, on the other hand, was laying it on thick, being sweet, flirty even, almost like she was overcompensating. That made it worse somehow.
Then came the final nail. On Wednesday, she told me she was flying to Chicago for a client workshop. 3 days. I knew that was a lie before she even finished the sentence. I had already checked her calendar. No trip listed. Her work group chat? Yep, I logged in, had no mention of any workshop. I even checked her flight booking email. She was flying to Miami, not Chicago. Miami! And you know who lives in Miami? Eli. At this point, I was done collecting evidence. I had the emails, the screenshots, the travel info, the receipts. I knew her lies inside and out. I'd spent the last few days preparing, not just emotionally, but strategically. I booked a session with a divorce lawyer, friend of a friend, started pulling bank records, made copies of every document I could think of, backed up her texts, photos, emails, everything. But I still hadn't confronted her. Why? Because I wanted her to look me in the eyes and lie one more time. I wanted her to seal her fate with her own words. The day before her trip, I brought it up casually while we were eating dinner. She'd made pasta, her lazy night special. Me. "So when do you fly out tomorrow?" Her, barely looking up. "Early, like 8 a.m. "Want me to drive you to the airport?" Her, smiling. "Aw, you're sweet, but I'll just Uber." Then she changed the subject, just like that. Like lying to my face was a normal part of her routine. No hesitation, no guilt, just that fake, airy voice she uses when she's hiding something. That was it. That was the moment. Internally, I flipped a switch, because now it was game time. And I wasn't just going to catch her red-handed. I was going to shatter the image she had of me being weak, and I was going to hit her where it hurts most. So, the confrontation. You'd think, after gathering all this ammo, I'd storm in like some enraged villain from a bad movie, right? Nah. I wanted to do this smart, calculated, and, most importantly, on my terms. The day she was supposed to fly to Chicago, I waited until she was packing. I casually walked into the bedroom, holding my phone, pretending to check some emails. Me. "Hey babe, about that Chicago thing." Her, eyes narrowing. "What about it?" Me. Calm as I can be. Funny thing is, I booked you a flight to Miami instead. Her blinks, then scoffs. What? That's ridiculous. I told you it's Chicago. Why would I lie about that? Me. Oh, I don't know. Maybe because you didn't want me to know you'd be seeing Eli? I got your emails, the texts, the hotel bookings. Her face turned pale for a second, then she laughed. Not nervously, not genuinely. It was a bitter, mocking laugh. Her. You really think I'm that stupid? That I'd leave a paper trail for you to find? Me. Apparently you are. Her. You're being paranoid. You're trying to gaslight me. Me. You're the one who's been lying every step of the way. Why don't you explain the text saying, "Can't wait to see you tonight, my secret"? She snapped. That's not what it looks like. You're twisting things. You always overreact. I realized she wasn't going to own up to anything. She was too far gone in her lies and denial. Then the pièce de résistance. Her, with venom. You know what? Maybe I'm bored. Maybe I don't want to be stuck with you forever. You're such a control freak, always watching me, accusing me. Maybe I deserve better. That hit me like a sucker punch. All the love, trust, and years thrown away in one spiteful sentence. I stood there, stunned for a second, then said, "You know what? I'm done listening to your crap." Walked out, locked the door behind me, and called the lawyer. That night, I barely slept. Rage, hurt, disbelief, and a strange sense of liberation all tangled up inside me. I felt broken, but also alive? Like I was finally seeing clearly after years of fog. That was the lowest point, but also the start of something new. After that night, I was a mess, like full-on emotional roller coaster. One minute I was furious, pacing the apartment like a caged animal. The next I was staring blankly at the ceiling, wondering where everything went so wrong. It felt like my whole world had flipped upside down. The worst part, the lies didn't stop. She doubled down on her victim act whenever I tried to talk. You're tearing this marriage apart. You don't trust me. Maybe you're the one who needs help. And honestly, it was maddening because deep down, I just wanted honesty, a shred of truth. I started therapy, first time ever. Talking to someone helped me sort through this mess inside my head. The anger was there, but so was sadness and betrayal and a weird feeling of guilt, like maybe I missed all the signs, like maybe I should have done something earlier. Friends and family noticed the change. Some told me to just forgive and move on, but I couldn't. Not yet. Not with everything still raw. Others said, "You deserve better," which was both comforting and heartbreaking. I kept gathering evidence quietly, preparing myself, not because I wanted to tear her down, but because I needed to protect myself, and maybe, just maybe, to get a little justice for the nightmare she put me through. But here's the kicker. I wasn't sure if I wanted a messy divorce, or if I wanted to confront her in a way that made her feel the consequences of her actions. The emotional betrayal was one thing, but the arrogance, the way she thought she could just lie and get away with it, that I couldn't forgive. So, I started plotting something. Not childish, not impulsive, smart. Something that would shake her up without blowing up my life in the process. I knew I had to be patient. The game was on, and I wasn't just a player. I was about to be the one controlling the board.
All right, buckle up, because here's where things get interesting. After days of pacing, thinking, and letting the initial shock settle, I realized direct confrontation or emotional outbursts wouldn't get me the closure or the revenge I wanted. I needed something cunning, something that hit her where it would hurt most without dragging us both through a public spectacle. So I started watching her, discreetly, not like a creepy stalker, but I paid attention to the little details, her schedule, her moods, the people she talked to. I noticed she got sloppy over time, leaving breadcrumbs like careless texts or her phone buzzing when she thought I wasn't watching. One night, I took a deep breath and set my plan in motion. I created a fake social media profile, a guy who seemed just mysterious and attractive enough to catch her attention, but not too obvious. Then over the next couple of weeks, I subtly ran into her online. I dropped comments on posts, slid into her DMs with innocent compliments, and acted like I was interested in friendship. She responded faster than I expected, flirty at first, but then more open. The tone of her messages was the same with Eli, secretive, excited, full of "I shouldn't be doing this" vibes. What she didn't know was that every message was a trap, meticulously documented. Every invitation, every planned meetup, every slip of her tongue was saved. I wasn't just catching her in lies, I was pulling her deeper into her own web. Meanwhile, I kept my distance in real life, smiling, nodding, acting like the devoted husband. It was exhausting, but the tension was delicious. The best part? I sent some of those screenshots anonymously to her boss and a few close friends who I knew wouldn't keep quiet. Let's just say her little side adventure started creating waves in her professional and social circles, without her knowing it was me behind the scenes. And all this while, she thought she was playing me like a fool. So here's where things really started to spiral for her, and honestly, it was kind of satisfying to watch from the sidelines. A few days after I'd leaked those screenshots, she got a call from her boss, abrupt, serious, and very, very uncomfortable. Suddenly, she was canceled for a big project she'd been working on for months. The close friends I told? Well, some of them started treating her like she was toxic, whispering behind her back at social events. What made it even sweeter? She didn't have a clue who was behind it. She was scrambling, trying to figure out how her perfect secret life had fallen apart. I watched her panic when she realized some people at work were acting cold, and then the late-night meetings started drying up. No more whispers from Eli, no more late nights out. But she still tried to act like nothing was wrong when she was with me, like this whole mess was some bad dream that she could shake off. I kept my poker face, but inside I was miles ahead. One night, I took a deep breath and set my plan in motion. I created a fake social media profile, a guy who seemed just mysterious and attractive enough to catch her attention, but not too obvious. Then, over the next couple of weeks, I subtly ran into her online. I dropped comments on posts, slid into her DMs with innocent compliments, and acted like I was interested in friendship. She responded faster than I expected, flirty at first, but then more open. The tone of her messages was the same with Eli, secretive, excited, full of "I shouldn't be doing this" vibes. What she didn't know was that every message was a trap, meticulously documented. Every invitation, every planned meetup, every slip of her tongue was saved. I wasn't just catching her in lies, I was pulling her deeper into her own web. Meanwhile, I kept my distance in real life, smiling, nodding, acting like the devoted husband. It was exhausting, but the tension was delicious. The best part? I sent some of those screenshots anonymously to her boss and a few close friends who I knew wouldn't keep quiet. Let's just say her little side adventure started creating waves in her professional and social circles without her knowing it was me behind the scenes. And all this while, she thought she was playing me like a fool.
So here's where things really started to spiral for her, and honestly, it was kind of satisfying to watch from the sidelines. A few days after I'd leaked those screenshots, she got a call from her boss, abrupt, serious, and very, very uncomfortable. Suddenly, she was canceled for a big project she'd been working on for months. The close friends I told? Well, some of them started treating her like she was toxic, whispering behind her back at social events. What made it even sweeter? She didn't have a clue who was behind it. She was scrambling, trying to figure out how her perfect secret life had fallen apart. I watched her panic when she realized some people at work were acting cold, and then the late-night meetings started drying up. No more whispers from Eli, no more late nights out. But she still tried to act like nothing was wrong when she was with me, like this whole mess was some bad dream that she could shake off. I kept my poker face, but inside I was miles ahead. One night she broke down and begged me to please stop whatever you're doing and said she wanted to fix us. I laughed. Fix? You mean fix the mess you created? No thanks. I told her, you want to fix us? Then start by telling me the truth. No lies, no games. She gave me some weak excuses about loneliness, boredom, and how I never listened anymore. Classic blame shift. At that moment, I knew she wasn't going to change. Not genuinely. So I started mentally preparing for the next phase, when I'd finally call it quits, but on my own terms. After that meltdown, I started setting boundaries. Quietly, without announcing it like some dramatic soap opera, I stopped doing the extra stuff. No surprise dinners, no compliments, no "how was your day" texts. I turned cold, but controlled. I let her feel the emotional distance she'd built between us. She got restless. The passive-aggressive comments started. "You're so distant, I don't even know why I bother. Maybe you're the one pushing me away." I just nodded and said nothing. No energy to fight her twisted narrative. Meanwhile, I worked on securing my future. Lawyer meetings, sorting finances, figuring out who keeps what. I wasn't bitter about the money. I just wanted a clean break and to make sure she didn't get away with any lies about me. Here's the best part. While I was doing all this, I started dating again. Not in some desperate way, but because I realized I deserved someone who respected me. I went on a couple of dates, kept it low-key, but just knowing I wasn't alone anymore made a huge difference. She found out about it, surprise, surprise, and flipped out, accusing me of ruining our marriage and trying to hurt her. I just smiled inside. The tables had turned. Now she was the one trying to prove her worth to me, begging for attention, acting jealous for once. I didn't give her the satisfaction. The whole thing was a cruel lesson, but I came out smarter and stronger. Here's where I decided to really get clever with my revenge, the kind that's low-key but hits where it hurts the most: her reputation and ego. Knowing she was desperate to fix things, I agreed to sit down and have a serious talk. Of course, this was all part of the plan. I laid out everything: the emails, the lies, the late nights, but I did it with calm precision, no shouting or drama. I wanted her to see how cold and methodical I could be. Then the real kicker. I made it clear I wasn't interested in reconciliation. Instead, I offered a deal. I'd sign off quietly on the divorce if she agreed to some pretty strict conditions, like paying for half the apartment breakup costs, no bad-mouthing me publicly, and importantly, no getting to keep the expensive jewelry and gifts she'd been bragging about. She tried to play tough, acting like she'd drag me through hell if I pushed. But deep down, I think she knew she'd lost control. After that, I started quietly telling our mutual friends the truth, not to slander her, but to protect my own image. I made sure everyone knew she was the one who'd cheated and lied for months. The best part? She was blindsided. People she thought were on her side started avoiding her, questioning her stories, and suddenly her perfect life started crumbling in a way I never had to touch with my own hands.
It wasn't about revenge for revenge's sake. It was about reclaiming my dignity and making sure she didn't get to walk away unscathed. After setting those conditions, the divorce process began quietly but steadily. No public blow-ups, no scandalous courtroom drama, just cold paperwork and legal formalities. I wanted it clean, efficient, and most importantly, on my terms. During this time, I focused on rebuilding myself. I threw myself into work, picked up hobbies I'd neglected, and spent time with friends who actually cared. It was tough, especially some nights when the silence in the apartment felt suffocating. But it was necessary. She, on the other hand, seemed to spiral. Without her lies to lean on, her world fell apart. I heard through the grapevine she struggled to keep her job and burned bridges with people who once liked her. Not my circus, not my monkeys. Honestly, I didn't feel satisfaction in her downfall.
It was more like a quiet relief knowing that karma had done its part. I felt lighter every day. I wasn't dragged down by her lies and betrayal. Looking back, this experience taught me a lot about trust, boundaries, and self-worth. It hurt deeply, but it also forced me to grow in ways I never expected. So, if you're reading this because you're going through something similar, trust your gut. Don't ignore the signs. Protect yourself emotionally and legally. And remember, revenge isn't about causing chaos. It's about reclaiming your power and moving forward on your own terms. Something I didn't expect. The emotional roller coaster didn't just end once I left her behind. It lingered. For weeks after the divorce was finalized, I caught myself replaying moments, good and bad, wondering where it all went wrong. The memories of who she used to be and who she showed me she really was clashed hard. There were nights when I wanted to text her just to ask why. Not for reconciliation, just for closure. But I never did. I knew some questions have no honest answers, especially from someone who lied so easily. I also realized how much I'd lost myself in the relationship. I'd put her needs and moods above my own for years, ignoring red flags, making excuses, sacrificing my own happiness. That's a lesson I'm still unpacking. Rebuilding my self-esteem wasn't easy. It took therapy, honest talks with friends, and even some solo trips to get back in touch with who I was apart from husband. I'm not going to lie, it's still a work in progress, but every step forward feels like a small victory. The best part? I'm starting to date again, but this time with my eyes wide open. No more blind trust, no more ignoring instincts, just honest connections. Now, here's something important I learned through all this. Communication is everything, but it has to be real communication, not the surface level, how is your day kind, but the kind where you both actually listen and are honest even when it hurts. If I could go back, I'd tell my younger self to pay attention to the little things that didn't add up, to ask the hard questions sooner, and to demand honesty, not to settle for excuses or cold shoulders. Also, trust is fragile. Once broken, it's nearly impossible to fully restore. I tried to rebuild it in my marriage, but the lies and betrayal were too deep. Another thing, don't be afraid to walk away. Staying in a toxic situation out of fear or pride only drags you down. Leaving is painful, but sometimes necessary. Finally, revenge, if you choose that path, doesn't have to be about public humiliation or drama. Smart, quiet moves that protect your dignity and hold the other person accountable are way more satisfying. Honestly, if I'd done that earlier, I might have saved myself a lot of pain. Something else I want to throw out there. Support systems are crucial. I leaned heavily on a few close friends and family during this whole mess. They listened, didn't judge, and reminded me I wasn't alone. I also found online communities like this one incredibly helpful for venting and advice. Sometimes just knowing other people get it makes a huge difference. On the flip side, I realized how isolating cheating can be. She kept secrets from her friends and coworkers, but I was blindsided alone until I pieced things together. That feeling of betrayal is doubled when you feel like the whole world's been lying to you. I'd encourage anyone in a similar situation to reach out. Don't suffer in silence. And if you have to, get professional help. Therapy changed the game for me. One last thing. I won't lie, the revenge part was satisfying, but I'm also learning to let go of grudges. Holding on to anger forever just poisons your own happiness. The best revenge is living well. And honestly, I'm getting there.
As for my ex, she eventually tried to reach out again, this time with apologies dripping in regret, promises she'd change, and offers to start fresh. I read her messages with a strange mix of amusement and pity. I didn't reply. Why? Because I realized that some bridges once burned can't be rebuilt without risking your own sanity. And frankly, I wasn't interested in reopening wounds that were just starting to heal. Instead, I focused on my future, building a life where trust, respect, and honesty aren't optional, they're non-negotiable. I know some people might say I'm harsh. Maybe I am. But after everything, I owe it to myself to protect my peace. So, if you're dealing with betrayal, remember you don't have to forgive immediately, you don't owe anyone explanations, and it's okay to prioritize you. To wrap this up, if there's one thing I want anyone going through this to take away, it's this. You are worth more than someone who cheats and lies to you to your face. No matter how much love you thought there was, betrayal cuts deep and healing takes time. Revenge can be tempting, but the smartest kind is the one that lets you reclaim your dignity without losing yourself in bitterness. Don't rush the process. Surround yourself with people who truly care. Get help if you need it. And most importantly, trust yourself. Your gut rarely lies. I'm not proud of everything I did, but I'm proud that I didn't let her destroy me. I'm moving forward stronger and wiser, and honestly, I feel like I'm finally free. Thanks for reading, Reddit. If you're in the same boat, you're not alone. Hang in there.